Hi, it's Sean, and you're listening to The 3-Month Vacation. Have you ever noticed that crazy car in traffic? You know what I'm talking about. Like everyone else, you're stuck in traffic, but there's this one crazy guy. He moves from the left lane to the middle lane, then not much further down the road, he moves to the fast lane. Suddenly, he's back, moving into the middle lane again. He's always trying to beat the traffic by moving from one lane to the other, but not getting very far ahead. What was new about the analogy that you just heard? Probably not a lot. Even if you've not experienced an identical situation, you would not have any problem with the above example. However, you might have noticed how the paragraph's description ended. It ended like this. You felt like the driver was not getting ahead. In other words, his random actions were largely pointless. Here's my question. If you were to sit down and think of a pointless situation, would you think of a crazy guy in traffic? My guess is that you wouldn't. And yet, we didn't sit down to do anything. We just went about our day and noticed what was happening, what was unfolding around us. In the last episode, we looked at the first stage of creating analogies. We had to work backwards. We had to come up with one idea or one concept. Then we had to do absolutely nothing. Nothing but watch the world around us. If you were like me, headed towards the city, you would have seen that crazy driver. You would have had the one idea or concept in your head, maybe somewhere rattling around in your brain, and then it would have connected. That crazy driver would have connected to a pointless action, and you would have a fabulous analogy. The most interesting part about the situation is that it's utterly boring and mundane. About 100% of that analogy is something that we can relate to as a pretty everyday event. It's the boring and mundane that makes fascinating analogies. The reason why we have so much trouble coming up with analogies is because we're looking for them. We are trying to create something. We sit down at a desk and do things, and that is not the way to go about it. When we approach analogies in that format, we end up with something that looks or sounds almost like everybody else's. For instance, let's take the concept of distraction. What would you think of if I asked you to come up with an analogy for distraction? Most people might immediately move to something like a shiny object, a magpie, or a cat chasing a laser pointer. We tend to resort to the very same examples over and over and over again, and at one point, one of these examples might have been very interesting to the reader, but they've been used so many times that they are ready for the garbage bin. This isn't to suggest that we need fancy analogies to make a point. All we require are everyday situations that have the capacity to take the reader by surprise. The way I create analogies is to take the first step, which is to go backwards. I think of what I want to say, and then I do no writing at all. My next step is to observe the world around me. Let's take an example. I recently stopped having coffee for a while. The problem is that I find most teas extremely tedious. When the waitress suggested I have hibiscus tea, I did so because I had few choices. However, as I drank the tea, I found it to be delightful. It was sharp and tangy from the first sip to the very last drop. So I had a bright idea. If the tea was like most teas I'd been drinking, I could easily get a second or even a third round. To my absolute amazement, when I added hot water to the hibiscus tea, it was tasteless. It had gone from 100% strength to 0. Notice how that description is exceptionally mundane. Yet it very cleverly describes the concept of going from full strength to a level of limpness. If I were writing an article that involved 100% to zero, the hibiscus tea episode is not only a great match, but utterly fresh as an analogy. But it doesn't stop there, because later on in the day I went for a massage. Yeah, I know, the good life. Anyway, I went for a massage and my neck was hurting a bit. The masseuse put a hot towel on my neck and it was delightful, but only for a couple of minutes. And then you know what happened next, right? It turned really cold. In other words, it went from 100% to zero. Everyday life has so many of these examples, and we're not looking for it because we are too busy at our desk trying to write something amazing, and you don't want to do that. You want to experience the world as we all do, and then glean something from it. Capture whatever's happening. Let's slide into yet another example, shall we? I have 3 avocados sitting on my kitchen bench top. All of them are green. This situation drives me crazy. All of the avocados will turn black and ready to eat, or they will all stay persistently green. There is no way to speed up the process, and for the most part, I just have to be patient. Notice once again how you would not connect avocados with patience. If you sat to write something, you would consider everything, almost everything under the sun, but not avocados. And that is because we are trying to write an analogy. Instead, we should go through life with an idea, have that idea, that one concept, and then watch something unfold. After that, it's just a matter of connecting that crazy driver, hibiscus tea, ripening of overly green avocados, and matching it with whatever idea you have, so that your article becomes interesting. And you don't just have to do this at the beginning of an article. You can use analogies in the middle, towards the end. If you read the first chapter of the Brain Audit, there are loads of analogies. Yes, loads of them. And they show up everywhere. Let's take a final example before we finish, and we'll talk about turmeric. Is turmeric powder good for you? Curcumin is the main active compound in turmeric. It's responsible for its vibrant yellow color and many of its health benefits. It is a powerful antioxidant, has anti-inflammatory properties, and it's believed to contribute to various medicinal effects. But you can add turmeric powder to a liquid and you'd get zero benefits. That's because curcumin has low bioavailability. The body doesn't absorb it as easily as you'd think. To increase absorption, you have to combine it with something like piperine, which is found in black pepper, or it needs to be taken with a fat. See that turmeric example? What does it remind you of? Let's say I've been thinking about writing an article about strategic alliances. Well, isn't pepper a strategic alliance for turmeric? Turmeric has other strategic alliances such as ghee, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, even full-fat dairy. But it's unlikely that you would be thinking about turmeric in combination with strategic alliances. Yet, if you have your idea and you have worked backwards, it's just a matter of paying attention to what is happening around you. The very mundane situations in life provide exceedingly good analogies. You can surprise people around you by bringing up these completely disconnected analogies, and then you have magic. Meanwhile, everyone else is bringing up the same old, tired, shiny object analogies. This brings us to the end of this episode. In the first episode, we looked at the one word or the one concept. We had to work backwards. In this episode, we learned that we have to do nothing but observe the world around us. As we do so, our brain picks up on these little stories, little things happening, and then we can connect it. we now can take this analogy business to a whole new level. Do we need to take it to another level? No, we don't. But we have the opportunity to do so if we want to. But we'll do that in the next episode. Right, it's that time to find out what's happening in psychotactics land. In the last few weeks, we created several WhatsApp groups, and one was for article writing, the other was for dartboard pricing, which, as you can tell, is about pricing, and also for Suddenly Talented, which is the book on talent. And unlike other groups that start off and then get taken over by somebody, these groups are extremely active, and there is a vast amount of information that comes in small bits in this kind of WhatsApp group. And one of the most active groups is the Suddenly Talented group. If you're wondering, how do you access this group? Well, you have to get the book to begin with. It's not very expensive. You can find it at psychotactics.com/talent. That's easy, isn't it? Once you make the purchase, you'll get the ebook as well as the audiobook. There are also some other goodies. But also look out in the email for a link to this WhatsApp group. And I'm telling you, you're going to enjoy yourself learning in small snippets. So that's psychotactics.com/talent. Easy to remember. Make a note and go there. And with that, I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye. Still listening? You know that analogy of going from 100 to 0? Well, there's an opposite version of it, which is 0 to 100. When we get home from the city, we have to cross a bridge. That is the Auckland Harbour Bridge. And I will turn to Renuka in the car and ask her, "Are you hungry?" And she'll say, "No, I'm fine." By the time we're on the other side of the bridge, she'll say, "I'm starving." And I'll go, "Just now, just a few minutes ago, you were not hungry." She says, "But I'm hungry now." And that's the example. 0 to 100. Just everyday life. I'll say bye for now. Bye-bye, and see you in 5000 BC.